Okay, the verse 2 section, what I've called the verse 2 section in the PDF, another 8-bar pattern. It's almost identical to verse 1, it's the last 2 bars are different. I'll play through the entire verse 2 section with the metronome, and then we'll talk through the notes. 2, 3, 4. Downbeat, first beat of the bridge or chorus section. Okay, so those last 2 bars, go through them really slowly, just do the notes first. It starts off on F, 3rd fret of the D string, then you've got open D string, back to F, open A string, C, 3rd fret of the A string, open D string again, F, then you're into the 8th bar, and then it's another hit on the F, 2 hits on the open A string, B flat, 1st fret of the A string, B natural, 2nd fret of the A string, C, 3rd fret of the A string, open E, and then that leads you nicely to the F on the downbeat of the next section. Now, these last 2 bars are probably the trickiest parts of the arrangement that I've done for you today. I'll just do these 2 bars with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can really have a good listen to that rhythm. Really typical 16th note syncopated kind of Motown rhythm, really typical of this 65, 66, 67, that kind of period Motown. Although this wasn't Jameson, this was Babbitt. A lot of the time when Jameson wasn't available, the Motown arrangers would bring in lines written in the style of Jameson and ask the players to play like that. So it's really important to get that line down and solid. One way that you can do it is just isolate those 2 bars and do something like, you get your metronome, sorry, let me just turn it off, and you start off with your metronome. Let's say I'm taking it down to 80 now, and just start off playing just those 2 bars at that tempo. 3, 4. And keep repeating it. And just repeat it over and over. Make sure you do it perfectly, I don't know, 10 times, something like that. And then nudge the metronome up 2 bars, so to 82, and then do it again. Whenever you come across something in a song where you've got a problem or there's a problem section, what most bass players do is they kind of skip over that section and they think in time it will become right. That's completely the wrong way to look at something like that. If you've got a section that's tripping you up because the fingering's tricky, it's a difficult bar, a difficult 2 bars, it's a difficult fill or something like that, the actual way to master it is to slow your metronome right down and just focus on that 1 bar or those 2 bars and work on them. Take the metronome right down, work on them, really hammer it home until you've got it, and then gradually bring the metronome up towards performance tempo. That's actually the way to deal with a section like this, where these 2 bars, it's quite a tricky combination of the rhythms, and especially in the first bar with all the open strings. That can be quite a tricky little fingering thing to do, depending on how good you are with open strings and muting open strings that aren't playing. So that's a bit of a tip if you ever come across a section in a song that you're learning that's really tricky. Anyway, let's move on and let's look at the last pattern, which I've called the bridge pattern in the PDF. Okay, the bridge pattern, very last pattern we're going to look at today. It's just a basic 2-bar pattern, F to B flat, the chords. Let's play it through the metronome, we'll talk through the notes. 2, 3, 4. repeats that, plays that pattern 4 times in all, and then you go back to the intro pattern. Anyway, the bridge pattern starts on F. It's the low F this time, the first fret of the E string. Another hit on the F. 2 hits on G, third fret of the E string. Open A, B flat. Then you're into the second bar of the pattern, B flat again, and then there's a little B flat pickup note. B flat, sorry, is first fret of the A string. Then you've got C, third fret of the A string, open D, and 2 on the octave F, third fret of the D string. So those are all the parts that you need to put together and create a quick version of signed, sealed, delivered that probably reflects on a 85–90% accuracy. But I guarantee you, as I say in the PDF, that if you take those parts, if you learnt those parts, took them to a rehearsal or a gig and played them like I've showed you, with a bit of feel, a bit of attitude, your bandmates will be delighted, and you won't let the song down. And the little missing bits and pieces, the little bit of extra cool fills that Babbitt does, you can get away without playing them in the real world. Also, another reason you can get away with these things is because often they work really well with the original feel, but depending on the ability of your bandmates, often some of that, especially the more complicated fills, don't sound quite so great, even if you get them 100% right, the right rhythm, the right notes, etc., in a rehearsal environment or a gigging environment. And that's because often when your bandmates go and learn some stuff, they often don't learn things really faithfully all the time. So, for example, I point out in the PDF there's a really cool fill in section F of the tune, the second bar. If you were playing that live and the drummer played something slightly different, your fill, which works perfectly in the context of the original recording, might sound messy and out of place in a live context. So it's another thing you've got to be really aware of when you learn stuff, is sometimes some of the things that's on the original recordings, you've got to be prepared to just change around slightly depending on the feel of the drummer, depending on what the rhythm guitar parts are doing, depending on what the keyboard player's doing. Sometimes you come across keyboard players who love to, depending on what they're doing, if their part's quite sparse with the right hand with the chords, they love to get busy with their left hand, which obviously then brings them down into our register. And if you've got a keyboard player who's doing stuff like that, you've got to be really careful about some of these fills and stuff, because they can really clash with what the keyboard player's doing. So you do just have to, when you're learning something, just exercise a bit of caution as well if it's for a rehearsal or a gig with other musicians. So that should give you all you need to combine with the PDF to take away, learn, and produce a pretty authentic rendition of this tune. So I hope that's really helpful. Look out for the next video PDF lesson in the sequence. It's a really fun rock tune to play. It's tuned by The Clash, their version of a song called I Fought the Law. Clash were a punky band in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, but the guy who played bass for The Clash was someone who actually knew a bit of music, and he put a bit of musicality in sometimes these very raw punk rhythms that were going on, and he created some really interesting bass lines. And I Fought the Law, it's not a tune that's particularly difficult to pick up. It's one of those ones that's just fun to play. It's a good rocking tune, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that. So look for that in your inbox. That'll be a couple of days or so. If you've got any questions on that, if you use the comments form on the website, you'll find the comments form linked from the menu bar that's at the top of the page. There's a form that says contact, or a link that says contact. It'll take you to the contact page. Fill in your details, send me your email or your question, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Look out for the next video in the sequence, The Clash's I Fought the Law, and I'll catch you up with you then. I hope this lesson was enjoyable. I hope you learnt some stuff from it, and I'll catch you next time.